Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead, and welcome to episode 255 On Location Conference Strategies. I'm actually on location at a conference in San Diego, and one of the things that I wanted to talk about is how I'm actually thinking about conferences in the moment, because sometimes we do all the planning to go there to present. And if we're doing one physically, it requires all kinds of things like travel and logistics and possibly some networking. And at least for this conference that I'm at, it's one that I only go to once a year. It's a large conference. I'm at the Pod Conference. I will put a little link to that in the notes if you want to check this out. But it is basically a conference for faculty developers, and that's a lot of the work that I do. So, one of the things I want to think about with this episode are some strategies to actually approach the conference once I actually get to the conference location. We have done episodes on conferences before. So, for example, episode 113 is one that I really like, probably one of my favorite episodes, actually, about 4 actions to take once you return home from a conference. So, I'll put a link to that one in the show notes because I definitely will be doing those actions. But another one that I like is episode that 235 that we did a while back about doing some conference planning. So both of those links I will put in the show notes. But one of the things I'm thinking about now that I'm actually in San Diego, I landed here, I have a workshop and a presentation, is I'm trying to think about what my goals are. And so I would say this is probably a better way for me to think through conferences now that I've been going to them for years and years to make sure that I'm really addressing whatever my primary need is. So, depending on the conference that you're going to, your goal could be meeting with publishers or networking. It could be that you're giving a presentation. That's a reason why a lot of us go to conferences. There definitely are some academics that they pick the conference because the location is great and they want to get some sightseeing in. That's okay. That's okay as a conference goal. Maybe you want to see things in the exhibit hall. There's some new materials you want to check out. Or I know for a long time I went to a conference where I connected with past colleagues from another institution. So yes, while I was interested in the conference, it wasn't in my primary field. And one of the benefits or one of the reasons I wanted to go was to connect with some past colleagues. So, all of these all of these goals are valid for a conference. A conference is personal to you. You experience it in the way you want to experience it. So one of the things I thought about for this conference is, what are some of my primary goals? And at least for me, at this particular conference, I really like networking with lots of other faculty developers. I presented a workshop and I'm doing another presentation this morning. And both of those things are great. I'm really excited about it. I like the stuff that I'm doing. I've connected with some new colleagues to present. So this time I'm presenting with different people that I haven't presented with before. So all of that's great. But I'm also trying to think about, all right, if that's my primary goal, I really want to, meet some faculty developers and do some networking. That might mean that I'm not doing some other things. So, for example, I've never been to San Diego, but I'm probably not going to do a lot of sightseeing. So I told somebody that the other day and they were horrified. But that's just me. That's just the, kind of the goal. I'm only here for a limited time. So those are the things that I'm looking at. That doesn't, that might mean that like this time around, maybe I'm not going to meet with a publisher per se. That was a goal at a previous conference, but it's not a goal at this conference. So just thinking through what are some things that are primary goals, I think can be really helpful. I have one of the things that's on the screen for those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can actually see a slide of some palm trees and me in San Diego and also a workshop from yesterday. So another thing that was not a primary goal, but is a goal that I think that a lot of us probably have to consider at some point is that we want to get the word out about our research. We want to think through, how am I talking about this while the conference is going on, but also after? And so I made sure yesterday, hey, let's make sure we take a picture. We've got some things we can put on LinkedIn. We can share it with our colleagues and so on. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking about. So while it was great to see, the palm trees and I get to walk by them going through this courtyard, which is great because I'm from Ohio and it was snowing when I left. This is in November of 2025 when this is being recorded. that's great. But I really am thinking more towards, okay, well, what are the connections and things I can do with my colleagues? So to that end, another important goal was, going out to dinner with a lot of people that I don't normally go out to dinner with. And we had some really good conversations about research and actually about AI, which was really cool. So shout out to everybody that was there. But, thinking through these goals, I think is helpful because conferences are really expensive. Getting to San Diego, really expensive. Staying in San Diego, really expensive. And so for me, I want to think about like, yes, I want to make, it worth the cost to come to a conference, but also am I really, getting the things out of this conference that I need to get to make it worth attending in person? This conference had a virtual option. Almost always I will pick the face-to-face option when possible. I prefer to attend conferences that way. I like to network that way. And so I really have to think through, okay, I'm only here, let's say 36 hours or 4 days or whatever it is. How am I going to fill my time in those 4 days? Other things that I try to think about are what sessions I'm going to go to at the conference. So I mentioned I presented a full day workshop and then I have a conference session this morning. And so I really try when I go to a conference, unless I have some other specific goals, but just in general, if I go to any conference, I try to think about sessions in three buckets. So one of the buckets is thinking about sessions that are focused on current projects that I'm working on. I work a lot on faculty writing and supporting faculty productivity and graduate student writing. So for me, some of the sessions I'm going to go to will be about that. Yes, I'm running some of them about faculty writing, but there's also a couple other ones that look really interesting that are focused on things I'm doing right now. I mentioned in a previous episode, I'm working on a book on sabbaticals. I'm also working on a writing project management book. So anything about those types of things, I'm going to take a look at and see if I want to go to something like that, see if there's anything that can help with a current project. But I'm also playing the long game and thinking about what's something I want to do after those two books are through. What's something else that's on the horizon? And at the moment, right now, I have a couple of different ideas, but not really one that's standing out. So one thing that I will be doing is scanning the session agenda to see, is there something that's kind of popping out at me as a potential new project in the topics that are out there? And I will try to go to at least one session on that to get that thinking going on that new project to keep my pipeline going. But a third thing, and honestly, my favorite thing about conferences is going to something totally random. So I try at every single conference to go to at least one really random session. So probably 15 years ago at Northeast Modern Language Association conference, I went to a session on Italian soap operas. I don't watch Italian soap operas and I don't speak Italian, and it wasn't anywhere in the area of anything that I was doing at the time. But it was a wonderful session and it was great. And what the session was about was using soap operas to teach students how to learn Italian because they got very interested in the plot lines. And I still remember it. I still remember it to this day. I've actually used some of the techniques that were in that session when I teach my gender studies courses. So, the random session can sometimes throw something really unique your way or just kind of stimulate your thinking in a different way. I've sometimes gone to random sessions for people that I don't really do what they do, but I know they're really good speakers just to learn something about some presentation skills. So when I think through session planning, I do try to think of these things in these three buckets and try to make sure I'm hitting at least a session in every bucket, depending on how long I'm at the conference. I also think through follow-up planning while I'm at the conference. So one thing I do try to do is every day before I go to bed, make sure that I'm connecting with some new colleagues on LinkedIn, writing a quick note about what we talked about before I forget and possibly they forget. I also, if I have listened to some presentations and some articles or books or websites were mentioned, I will just look all that stuff up because future me isn't going to remember that stuff once I, get all the way home and, all the travel and everything back. So I will try to do that before, like actually on the same day it happens, or usually on the same day it's happening, just so I don't forget those things. Another thing that I will do is sometimes there are like message boards that show like future conferences or other kinds of connection opportunities. I will pay attention to those things and grab some handouts or take pictures of QR codes and just make some notes. If I see something that looks really amazing that I definitely don't want to forget, I will even go as far as to look up when the call for papers is and drop that date into my calendar a few weeks before the call is actually due. So that way I make sure that, hey, that thing that I just heard about at this conference I didn't lose it in the rush of all the conference rushing around. And then finally, the other thing I like to do is check on when is this conference next year, because sometimes I will then go ahead and really look at things like I'm going to look at a hotel right now and see if there's anything that I could get a really good deal on or anything like that. So I have already done that for this conference, and it's in Baltimore, if anybody is wondering. Also, as we close out November, I want to encourage everybody to take a look at our events on Eventbrite for December. December 1st, we are doing our annual Maintaining Writing Momentum in December. We always do a webinar on writing strategies for December. Many people view December as a throwaway month for doing scholarly projects because of all the holidays and the travel, but I would urge you that there are ways to get some writing in, at least in that first 2 weeks. So I would encourage you to check out those opportunities on Eventbrite. Also, we are still running our holiday coaching special where all of our hours are at the lowest price of the year. So this special, we only do it once a year. We always do it as kind of a Black Friday / holiday special. And right now, if you buy 11 hours, you get one free. You buy 15, you get three free, or buy 20 and you get five free. And all of the hours are discounted by $15 or more per hour. So if you want to book some times with our scholarly coaches and you want to set up yourself for some writing success in the new year, this is a really good way to do it. Please don't hesitate to contact me, Christine at Defend Publish Lead, and happy writing this week.